Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Ash, crying out loud. I know he's right there. Can you really please hit the Pokeball? Thank you.
This is going to be every week now with your new toy, isn't it?
It's a new toy. I'm working my way home. I got stuck in Green Hill Zone. I'm taking the train back. I got stuck here, Pokemon Go, but it's a nice place. As you can see, the weather's beautiful. The mountain range over there is gorgeous.
I can only hope the next location you wind up in is Dark Souls.
And the next leap will be the leap home. Welcome to episode 185 of the Retro Gamers podcast. Larry here.
And unfortunately, Anthony here.
One of us has to have fun here.
I have fun every week.
Anthony has his green screen. I'm stuck here in a video game. So
I don't even know what to say to you. And this is only like the second week you're doing this.
Yes, and I have a lot more stops to make. So
yes. And at least my background actually has a specific purpose for this week. So.
I did not choose the train dropped me off in Pokemon Go. So
yeah, because Sega Genesis mascot totally leans into a Nintendo mascot.
You've seen Wreck-It Ralph. It's all through the channels and everything.
Just do me a favor. When you get sucked into a video game, can you let me know which one so I can just put the cartridge on my shelf to collect dust for eternity?
We will see. So, yes, but Anthony does, and as you can see, I'm kind of glitching a little bit, so it's a little weird. It's humans aren't really meant for these worlds, but I'll get through it.
No, humans aren't meant for these Zoom backgrounds.
So, speaking of which, though, we do have a big time anniversary that just passed last week, I believe it was, with the 40th anniversary of a game near and dear to all of our hearts, Pokemon Go. No. Pac-Man. Pac-Man hits 40. The big 4-0.
Do not joke about that. Yeah, Pac-Man is 40 years old. And you know what the funny thing is about that? The first thing I realized when they said Pac-Man was turning 40, I'm like, wait, I'm older than Pac-Man. Damn it.
Technically, I am too, only by a couple of months, though.
Yeah. So Pac-Man turned 40. Really, really big news. Normally on our shows, we'll do like kind of a mini segment with a retro birthday kind of thing to shout out Pac-Man. But because Pac-Man is such an iconic game, I mean, it's one of the most recognizable games in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
That it deserves more attention than just a simple retro birthday. So we are bringing back the retro spotlight today, which we haven't done in a long time.
No, very long.
And to be honest, I do miss the retro spotlights because I like not only sharing all of the information that I find, but for me personally, learning all the information about certain video games that I didn't know about. And Pac-Man's definitely got a few of those. Although I will say a lot of what I did research, I kind of knew already. It's because Pac-Man is so, it's so well known, it's so popular, and it's ingrained in both of us.
Yes, it's ingrained in pop culture. Let's not forget, Pac-Mania sweeping the nation and Pac-Man fever hitting the Billboard charts or whatever. I mean, Pac-Man is just iconic with video gaming. Even the unlikeliest of video gamers knows who Pac-Man is. And, the simplicity of the game, it's amazing how, and yes, this was like the early 80s, so it was kind of repetition was the name of the game, but how simplistic Pac-Man is to become so iconic, it's kind of crazy. I mean, every now and again, I'll go back and I'll watch, I was when I was 6 really, I was on an episode here in New York called Romper Room, and which the whole episode is on my YouTube channel, More 365.
Is the part where Miss Molly made you cry on YouTube?
No, she didn't make me cry. She made someone else cry. And it's in the video when she yanked the kid down because we were crowding around. It was terrible. But she was nice. When I met her years later, she was very nice. But when on that video, which I just uploaded on YouTube, it's the old commercials are in there. And there's the commercials for Pac-Man cereal. So just showing how this thing went from arcade to serials to television to, again, pop culture, it's wild.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. And like you said, I mean, Pac-Man fever, literally Pac-Man fever exploded
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. And, and that's one of the reasons why Pac-Man is one of the most well-known and recognizable game characters across the globe.
No, totally, absolutely. I'm dropping everything here. So we're gonna get into it today, as Anthony said. We're gonna revisit Pac-Man, talk about some of its wild sequels, some of its zany sequels, really. One of which I think is, I'm shocked we never saw really more of as far as gameplay. But I guess we should just get right into it and talk about Pac-Man even before, even in times when, people, John Cougar became John Mellencamp, became John Cougar Mellencamp. Pac-Man kind of fell into that in the beginning of his career.
Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe he was one of the first to ever have to suffer the dreaded name change, and we'll get to that.
Maybe.
But anyway, so our retro spotlight this week obviously is on Pac-Man, celebrating his 40th anniversary. He was originally developed by the company known as Namco, or today I believe they're known as Bandai Namco.
Yeah. Namco Bandai.
Or is it Namco? No, Bandai Namco. I thought.
Okay, I don't know, one or the other.
Anyway, either way you put it. It was published in Japan by Namco. However, in North America, it was published by Midway Games. So, and I'm sure Midway Games is very happy that they took this title under their wing because I'm sure it has kept them in business for the last 40 years. The original release date was on May 22nd, 1980.
Yes.
And we'll get into that a little bit because it actually didn't hit mass market until July of 1980. So, but we'll get there in a little bit. First, I want to go back a little back in time to the beginning. So, obviously, the character of Pac-Man is the mascot and flagship icon of Bandai Namco Entertainment, and it also has the highest brand awareness of any video game character in North America. So this guy, so Pac-Man tops Super Mario, he tops Sonic in North America.
I'm kind of shocked he tops Mario. And I'm not just saying that because, Nintendo purists. I just would have thought Mario would be more iconic, but I get it.
I think you'll understand that as I go through everything else because of just he generated a broader appeal, whereas Mario initially was more kid-based, video game-based, and also male-based. Mario tended to have a bigger male following. Pac-Man kind of crossed genders, and we'll talk about that later. So going back to the beginning, Namco back in 1976 acquired the Japanese division of Atari. Now I didn't know that. So apparently, Atari was kind of at the time was developing their video game systems, and I guess they were struggling. So Japan, or struggling in Japan, let's say. So Namco acquired the Japanese division, and then they started producing the video games in-house.
Okay.
As originally, Atari was licensing other developers in Japan to do their games, and I guess they weren't doing a good job, so Namco brought it in-house. Obviously, when they acquired it, they brought it in-house. One of the people that they hired, or one of the employees that was already there, I didn't get specific on that, was a 24-year-old man named Toru Iwatani.
There you go.
The last names always get me because of all the vowels. So Toru Iwatani, and I'll just call him Toru because it's easier. So he was an employee there. He created the first video game from Namco called GB in 1978. Didn't do so well, but it just allowed Namco to kind of get into the video game industry in that sense. And then he created two sequels for that called Bombi and Cutie Q in 1979. So these were just the first games out of Toru's repertoire. Then what happened was, for Toru's next game, he had decided he wanted to create something a little less violent, a little more cheerful, and specifically wanted to create a game that appealed towards women, because not only was, the arcade was open to anybody, but it seemed
Mm-hmm.
to be a little more, geared
Yeah, it was
towards males.
male dominated. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little more male dominated. Games were obviously about, shooting and violence and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So his rationale behind it was, if he created a game for women, it would not only attract women to the arcade, but it would also start attracting couples, so that an arcade can become more family friendly. So it's not just all about, death and destruction and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
based on that, and again, this is not me. This is the information I found. So I'm not. This is not my personal assessment. But Toro began thinking about things that women liked to do, and he decided to center the game around eating, based on his thoughts that women like to eat desserts and other sweets. Again,
Okay.
I don't.
All right, we don't. It's okay. We don't
It's
have.
okay.
It was the
Right.
'80s.
Exactly. So
We all love to eat.
this is the late '70s, early '80s.
Bonbons.
So born from that was the whole idea of Pac-Man. In the beginning, he was called Pac-Man, which is actually Pakkuman, and that's based on the Japanese term paku paku tabaru, which means the movement of your mouth from open to close, which is basically what you do when you chew.
Yep.
Or when you eat. So that's why his initial name was Pac-Man. Okay. The game later became what we know as Puckman, which was the original name that under the release in Japan.
Yes, and we actually, a very close friend of ours actually has an original Pac-Man machine.
Oh, and who was that?
Verdi.
Oh, that's right. That is an original Pac-Man.
He's been on the show a couple times before,
Yeah.
but he has an original Puck-Man cocktail table cabinet.
Yes,
table.
Yes, and I can't believe I forgot that, because I spent a lot of my childhood hanging out at his house playing that Pac-Man.
There you go.
It's amazing. So Iwatani started developing the game in 1979. It was him and a team of 9 other people, so 10 people, developing all the various parts of Pac-Man. It took a year and 5 months to complete. At the time, the longest it's ever taken a video game to be made at that point. Okay. So we get to, upon completion, right? We get the title Pac-Man, and the reason why he was named Pac-Man, do you know this?
I'm going to guess he looks like a puck.
He looks like a hockey puck. He had a hockey puck type shape, so they went after Pac-Man. Now, on May 22nd, 1980, they started location testing. Now, what the arcade industry would do is they would send out arcades to just specific locations, just to see what the response would be before they went into, mass market. Obviously, Pac-Man was released on May 22nd. The reviews generally were actually overwhelmingly positive. And so from there, they did a nationwide release in July. Okay. I'm going to come back to a couple of little bits of information up here.
Okay.
Well, actually, let me touch on this one. This is interesting. I like saving the fun facts for later. And I just put.
And there are a lot of fun facts with Pac-Man.
There are a bunch of fun facts here. I put them a little bit out of order on my sheet, so I'm just going to make a little adjustment here, and then I'm going to go back. Okay.
All right.
So Pac-Man gets released in Japan, only moderately successful. So it did okay, but it didn't blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Iwatani was very happy about this, because it did really, really well among women. Which is what his goal was. So it was actually achieving the goal. And part of the reason why, and that's actually part of the reason why, if you look at the way that the game is structured, the reason why he chose to use pastel colors for the ghosts, and the blue on the board and everything like that, they went after that, and with the fruit that you get and everything like that, he literally did that because he thought it would be more appealing towards women.
Okay.
And also, it was brighter than other games in the arcade.
It does catch your eye, yeah.
Exactly. It's a very eye-catching game when you see it. Originally, the ghosts were all red. They were supposed to just be all red.
Oh, it's like the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, exactly. But he went back, but he countered that and said, no. He's like, I want this to be bright. I want this to be colorful, cheerful, and eye-catching. It's also one of the first games. A lot of people call it the first game to ever include a cutscene in the arcade, which actually is not exactly true because I believe I want to say Space Invaders 2, which came out a year prior, had cutscenes, but this is the first one that has been officially recognized with cutscenes, so it's a little bit weird there. But,
yeah, you don't really remember Space Invaders 2 in the arcades.
Well, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So anyway, so modestly successful in Japan, but in North America, this thing blew up, and this is the reason why I think Pac-Man is the most recognized character in video games in North America, because within a year in North America, now remember, this is 1980, okay?
Yes.
Within a year, more than 100,000 arcade units sold. And
that's a lot.
Right, and grossed in 1980 more than $1 billion in quarters.
That is a big amount of money.
That is a lot of quarters. That's like Scrooge McDuck, money bank quarters. $1 billion in quarters. Okay, because what would that be? That would be like 4 billion quarters.
A billion quarters? Like $1 billion in quarters?
No, $1 billion in quarters would be like 4 billion quarters or something.
How many quarters is $1 billion?
4 billion.
I found this on the web.
Oh, doesn't say.
Anyway. Well, here's the math, Larry. 4 quarters in a dollar, right? $1 billion. 1 billion times 4 billion quarters.
I don't know why that doesn't. Okay.
I mean,
I'm going to try. I trust you on it, but
yeah, it's 1 times 4.
Okay.
Anyway, so all right, $1 billion in quarters in 1980. Okay, huge, absolutely huge. Fast forward to 1982. So we're talking just another year later, because from 80 to 81, 100,000 units. From 81 to 82, now it's 400,000 units.
Wow.
And at that point, receiving an estimated 7 billion coins. So now you're jumping up to $3.5 billion in quarters, which
now
is
dealing
absolutely
with some
insane.
Big time money, yeah.
Yep. At the same time, and again, this is the other part that I thought was really cool, themed merchandise for Pac-Man. Now, again, this is the early 80s. $1 billion in sales.
Good Lord.
For merchandise between 1980 and 1982 with Pac-Man. So that's just a testament to how big it was in North America. So it just absolutely blew every other game out of the water. Pac-Man is the best-selling arcade game of all time, with more than $2.5 billion in revenue. Not overall, obviously not overall quarters in, but just absolute revenue what the company made, which surpassed Space Invaders. Space Invaders was actually the original, had the record until Pac-Man. So Pac-Man surpassed Space Invaders in 2016. If you were to do like an inflation adjustment, you know how they do those like with movies, like this movie like if Gone with the Wind came out today, it would have made more money than any other movie in history with the inflation adjustment. Of course, not everybody would go see it today, so it wouldn't make that much, but that's another story. But with inflation, Pac-Man has made $7.68 billion.
Wow. That is some cash.
Yep. And that's just here. Because it's one of the longest running, best-selling, highest gross video game franchises in history, when you bring in the overall franchise over 40 years, 48 million copies across all platforms. This is Pac-Man games overall. So 48 million Pac-Man games sold and grossed over $14 billion, over half of which was just from the original game.
That sounds like a success to me.
Sounds like a success to me. And then the other cool thing about Pac-Man is Pac-Man originated what we call the maze chase game. Right? We got flat maze on the board, off you go, and we've seen a million of these. I know aside from Pac-Man, there was a game on Vectrex I played called Clean Sweep way back when I was a kid. Similar thing. There's an arcade game called Ladybug. I don't know if you remember seeing Ladybug, which also has
Ladybug,
yeah. So we can thank Pac-Man for pretty much all of these maze chase games. After Pac-Man, obviously, maze chase games exploded on home computers. Some of them were official ports. Other ones weren't. And other ones that gained attention also resulted in lawsuits because lawyers would go after them saying, hey, you basically copied Pac-Man and you don't have the rights to it.
Yeah, I think Pac-Man might be like the most copied game of all time, most ripped off.
It might be. Now here's a list of some of the ripoffs that wound up getting lawsuits, and I thought these were interesting because at least one of them I know, or a couple of them I know. Taxman.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah. That one I've heard of. Snack Attack for the Apple II. Jawbreaker for the Atari 8-bit. Scarfman for the TRS 80.
Scarfman.
Casey Munchkin for the Odyssey 2.
Awesome names.
And then because Namco obviously was so successful with Pac-Man, they made other Maze Chase games as well, because if it works, do it. Some of the other games that they released that you may know: Rally X.
Yes.
Dig Dug. Xvania, which I don't know. That came out in the 90s.
Okay.
And my favorite name on the list from 1994, Tinkle Pit.
There you go. I love playing Tinkle Pit.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to go into that. Okay. Going through high score records for Pac-Man, because this is another well-known thing about Pac-Man. The only way that you get the maximum possible score that you can get on Pac-Man is by defeating 255 levels. And eating every dot, every energizer, every fruit, and every enemy without losing a single life.
That is a perfect game.
That is a perfect game. Using all extra lives to score as many points as possible on level 256. Because on level 256, the game, you get your kill screen on the game. Okay,
we got a kill screen. Got a kill screen. Yep.
And the perfect score in the game is 3,333,360 points. That is the perfect score. The first person to achieve this was Larry,
the biggest villain of all time in the gaming world, in my opinion. Old sauce guru himself, hot sauce guru, Billy Mitchell.
That is correct. So Billy Mitchell claimed to perform this feat in about 6 hours in 1999.
I thought he did it in front of people.
Claimed.
Oh, I could have sworn he did it live. Okay.
However, in April 2018, when we got the news that Twin Galaxies was removing all of Mitchell's scores from its database.
That's a whole nother story in itself.
Yeah, because the Donkey Kong submission had not been achieved using authentic arcade hardware. They not only removed his Donkey Kong high scores, but they removed all of his high scores, which included Pac-Man. So since that happened,
there's now technically no perfect game ever.
No, there are 7 other players who have attained the maximum score on the original arcade unit. The world record, according to Twin Galaxies now, is currently held by David Race, who has the fastest completion time, 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 49 seconds. Which is insane.
Interesting. Yeah, because as you go, and just talking about now the game itself, as you go on in the levels, there are some levels where those ghosts don't even blink. Or if they do, they blink for like half a second. I mean, you got to time it. It's kind of how I play Ms. Pac-Man, and I've seen this. Actually, it's Billy Mitchell's gameplay is where I picked this up from, where you just center yourself in the corner and you wait for the ghosts will eventually kind of gather together, and then you just hit that power pellet the last second and then just go right at them. But to try and do that, I don't even bother doing that. I'm not that good where I can do it where like they're only lit for a second. But I when I'm in those levels, at least in Ms. Pac-Man, because I play that more than regular, I can't even fathom just waiting there, or maybe just keep circling around, waiting for them to group together. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. And from my own personal experience, obviously playing Pac-Man, like I've done really well in Pac-Man and I've gotten high scores, but just trying to figure out the pattern. I mean, imagine trying to figure out the patterns for all of these levels and then doing it over and over again, absolutely perfectly, never losing a life, never missing a ghost. Yeah, I mean, it just takes so much time and focus.
Practice makes perfect, and I can't even imagine the amount of practice, especially because when you're playing on if they're talking about an original arcade cabinet, we talked about this with Ms. Pac-Man, how I'm not going to call it slow because really it's regular pace, but how in a lot of the bars and a lot of the arcades, they'll hit that switch to speed up Pac-Man to make a move a lot faster. The reason for that was to get more quarters in.
Right.
for me, it's the only way I can play. I can't play a regular version of Pac-Man. And I would find that daunting, especially how quote unquote slow he's moving at that point.
Yeah. Well, not only that, you got to play 256 levels worth of that.
That too, yeah. So
that's a long time
for 3 hours. And do you know? I don't know if it's in your notes there. Do you know about the? I've tried it. It works to a point, but not for infinity. Kind of how to pause the arcade game.
No.
So there's a way to kind of sort of pause the arcade game when you're playing, and I tried it. Actually, there's a version of there's a Pac-Man arcade at Game On. And I was there one time and I tried it. Basically, I don't remember which part of it, but you set yourself up. You know where Pac-Man starts? Actually, you know what? Let me pull this up. Let me do this here. So, well, you're blocking it right now, Anthony. So
here, let me slide out of the way for a moment.
See. So, okay. So if you go to one of the spots, all right. So Pac-Man starts right below the box there. Yep, right there.
Right where my finger is.
Yep. If you go down right below that T shape into one of these corners, I want to say it's the other corner. Yeah. That corner up there.
That corner here.
No, back it up. Back it up. Right under the T. That little corner under the T.
Yep. Okay. So there.
So if you go to that, not exactly where Anthony's pointing, but nevertheless, if you go right there, the ghosts just circle around you. And I left it. And it probably went for I'm not even joking, maybe like a half hour.
Wow. And they were just still going around.
They just circle around. And then finally one smartened up and came in and got me. But I purposely set it up like that. But yeah, it worked. It's just something in the code they don't normally go.
It's like that spot's invisible to them in a way.
Basically. And so if you need to go take a bathroom break or something, or just grab something to drink,
just put your guy there.
And I feel like that's probably how Billy Mitchell did it and how some of these other players did it. They probably took advantage of that little pause feature. So,
yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an awesome little trick. Absolutely. Okay, so some awards that the game has received over the course of time. In 1981 at the Arcade Awards, because there were Arcade Awards back then, Pac-Man was awarded Best Commercial Arcade Game. That's kind of a no-brainer there. Guinness Book of World Records has awarded Pac-Man 8 records in the Gamers Edition in 2008, which included Most Successful Coin-Operated Game. Let's see. In 2010, Toru Iwatani received the certificate from the Guinness Book of World Records because Pac-Man having had the most coin-operated arcade machines installed worldwide.
Oh, wow.
The record was set in 2005, but then it was finally noted. The game has also inspired a lot of real-life recreations of this. I don't know if you heard of this, involving either real people or robots, which I find interesting. One of those games, one of those events was called Pac-Manhattan. And it set a Guinness World Record for largest Pac-Man game in 2004.
Really? Like what, against a building or something?
No, I mean, real life Pac-Man setup.
Like, I'm sorry.
Like in the real world.
Yeah, I got you now. Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yep. However, if you really wanted to challenge yourself, you can search for the biggest Pac-Man maze online. The record is held by fans who built it, and it includes a colossal 25,000 levels of play.
Ooh, that's going to take a little while.
That's going to take some time. So those are some of the awards that this thing has received. Now I get to the fun facts, and I always love the fun facts because it's these little things where you're like, oh, didn't know this. So we all know that the ghosts have personalities, right? Because they all have their names. Do you know their names?
Inky, Blinky. Oh, I always forget the one. Hold on. Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde.
Yes. Okay. Now they weren't named.
And that was not on my screen.
Right.
That was not on my screen.
No, that wasn't. So those weren't their names in Japan, obviously.
Okay.
So, but the thing about each ghost was not only did they have their own names, but they actually had their own personalities in terms of how they acted on the board, right?
Yeah. The only two I knew of, I just want to see if I got this right. Red was more aggressive, and I think it was Clyde, Orange, who kind of always like trailed back a little bit. I don't know how to explain that one.
Okay, so the red ghost, which is Clyde, or in Japan, Akabe, he would chase Pac-Man. That was his job. His job was to just straight up, chase Pac-Man. The pink and blue, Pinky and Blinky, which were in Japan. Pinky and, I don't know how to say this, Aosuke. Or Aosuke. Their job was to get in front of Pac-Man. So red would chase behind you, and blue and pink would get in front of you. So the idea would be to trap you.
They're like velociraptors.
Right? Yeah, basically. Although I just read an article a few days ago saying that studies have now shown that velociraptors did not hunt in packs.
No, you telling me Steven Spielberg got it wrong?
That is correct. Okay. Well, not at the time. At the time, that's what they thought. And then the last ghost, the orange ghost, to your point, which was, wait, what did we say his name was? Inky, Blinky, Pinky. I think it was Blinky, right?
I could have sworn he was Clyde.
No, I thought red was Clyde. Am I right?
No.
Anyway, so the orange ghost in Japan was called Gazuta. He switched up between chasing the player and running away from him. That's why he always did like he always seems like he has the most erratic of behaviors.
Exactly,
because he's given two jobs. He chases you sometimes, and other times he runs away from you. So that's what the four ghosts are supposed to do. The power pellets that we all know that you consume so you can turn the ghost blue and eat them. The idea behind the power pellets was a concept Iwatani borrowed from Popeye the Sailor Man.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He got the idea, obviously, because when Popeye eats a can of spinach, he gets super strong and he can beat anybody up. That was part of the reason why he came up with that. The other reason why he came up with that was what?
I'm sorry. No. It was bugging me. Red, Blinky. Pink, Pinky, blue, Inky, and then orange, Clyde. That's right. They kind of told you what they did, kind of, sort of. Shadow, Speedy, Bashful, Pokey.
Yes.
Interesting.
So the power pellets were a concept from Popeye the Sailor Man, and combined with a Japanese children's story about a creature that protected children from monsters by devouring them.
Fair enough.
Don't worry, the monster won't get you. I'll just eat you and you'll be safe.
Okay, so I deep dove a little bit into the ghosts. I don't know if this was a separate pull up that you did, but there's a separate Wikipedia on just the ghosts.
Okay,
at least with their names. So in Pac-Man, Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, they did have various different names on Puck-Man. In Puck-Man, they were Mackie, Mickey, Mucky, and Mokey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Some alternate character names: Urchin, Romp, Stylist, and Crybaby. And this is going red, pink, cyan, technically, and orange. Yeah. Let's see. And then, Chaser, Ambusher, Fickle was cyan, and orange, Feigned Ignorance. Which
that makes sense.
That's the translations of their names, basically, I guess, of their Japanese names. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is kind of cool.
So, and then there's been other ghosts as more games came out. Kinky's one of them. All right. I'll have to check that one out.
Nice. That's a whole other podcast. That's your other podcast. We won't talk about that yet.
Yes.
All right. I got a few more fun facts before we wrap this up. The original Japanese title of Puck-Man was changed to Pac-Man for international release. And did we know why?
I think for obvious reasons.
Companies were worried that teenagers, kids, adults alike were going to deface the name Puck-Man by replacing the P with an F.
Just scratch that out, take that quarter, scratch out that P a little bit.
So that's why Puck-Man is now known as Pac-Man outside of Japan.
Yes.
Okay. At the height of Pac-Man's popularity, and you've already touched on this, songwriters Buckner and Garcia released the song Pac-Man Fever in 1982, which did reach the top of the charts at the time.
And another...
we're going back to ghosts?
No. But another song, I didn't realize this, but it was only available in his compilation. You're probably just about to mention it, but when I was just reading ahead, this is amazing. Weird Al Yankovic did a parody of Taxman by the Beatles, calling it Pac-Man. It was only available in his 2017 compilation work. So now I'm going to desperately try and find that song because I never knew he did that.
I'm sure you can YouTube it and
That's
find
pretty
it.
interesting.
Yeah. 1982 saw the release of the Pac-Man cartoon on television.
Yes,
which was
love
awesome.
that cartoon.
Pac-Man, of course, has been in every, between television, film. He was in Pixels, among other things.
I love that scene in Pixels.
I still have to watch Pixels.
Yeah, Pixels gets a bad rap. I don't know why. It's just a fun movie to watch, and the whole scene, the whole Pac-Man, there's a whole Pac-Man scene, and he's right there on the cover. You would think he was the villain, the main villain of the game, movie. I mean, but just the whole scene just made it feel just at home. Felt comfortable. Like, all right, they're doing this one justice. And yes, even though they had Toru Iwata was played by somebody else. The actual Mr. Iwata, I believe, was in Pixels. Iwatani, I'm sorry. Iwatani was in Pixels as like a like an arcade. Oh, excuse me. He was fixing one of the arcades. But I think because he doesn't speak English, they had an actor play him as himself in the movie, which is very funny because he's like, he goes up to the giant Pac-Man and he's like, "You are my son. You are not bad. You're good." He holds his hand out. Pac-Man just chomps his hand. And he starts becoming Pixels. And he's like, "Run, kill it." It was pretty funny.
That's cool. So Pac-Man has definitely made its way into the outside the digital world, into the real world. We've seen, not only did we see him in a lot of media, board games. I had the original Pac-Man board game in 1987.
Yeah,
I did.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't remember. I never owned it, but when I saw it later on, I mean, what was it like to play that game? That's just a weird board game.
To me, it was just like it was just kind of like a Hungry Hippos kind of thing. It really was, because your little character would go from space to space and eat the pellets on the board, and then at the same time, the ghosts would move around the board as well, and eventually, if they got you, you lost. You lost. It was really cool. And to be honest, I wish I had it. But the worst part about playing that game, though, it was so easy to lose the little white marbles, the pellets.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so, it didn't take long before I was missing too many pieces and the game went away.
There you go.
A couple more things just to share. This is interesting. Do you know how the character of Pac-Man got his shape?
Sure did. As we were recording today, yesterday was World Pizza Party Day. More for the Ninja Turtles, but yeah, they just take a slice out of a normal pizza pie, and there you go.
That is only partially true.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that?
Well, what's the other half of it?
Okay, so in Japanese, this is from Iwatani. He actually admitted this. He said the pizza thing is kind of sort of true, but not really, because in Japanese, the character, because you know how their language, when they write it down, it's characters. It's drawing characters. The character for the word mouth, which is kuchi, is a square shape. So what he did was he took the square shape and he rounded the corners.
Gotcha.
And that's how he right, which basically it's a circle, but it wasn't a perfect circle. And that's essentially how he wound up concepting the Pac-Man design. And then obviously, and then the pizza part where he took a piece out of it.
Yeah.
So,
all right, interesting. So,
yeah, it was actually two ideas put together. But I thought that was interesting because I didn't know that. And now that Pac-Man is celebrating its 40th anniversary, Bandai Namco this year has teamed up with Japanese DJ Ken Ishii to create a special birthday song. It is called Join the Pac, P-A-C.
I think I saw this already.
And features well-known music and game noises from the iconic 80s game.
Yeah, I saw it.
So
it's a trip.
Yep. So that concludes the retro spotlight on Pac-Man. So if I didn't cover anything, if you guys know any other information, please share it with us, because love learning about video games, especially Pac-Man, one of our near and dear. And then something I think, Larry, you're going to not only be interested in, but I believe your credit card is going to be interested in.
Oh, boy.
If you go to the website numbskull.com, you can purchase a Pac-Man 40th anniversary quarter arcade exclusively hand-signed by Toru Iwatani himself.
Here's my first.
It's 1/4 scale. It's a 1/4 scale Pac-Man arcade.
That was a full one.
No.
Okay.
1/4 scale. Only 256 units
Ah.
available worldwide.
How do you spell numbskull?
NUMSKULL.com.
It was
It is 16.92 inches tall by 8.27 inches deep and 6.3 inches wide. It has a plaque on each cabinet numbering it. It is a precise replica, wooden shell, artwork, buttons, joystick, air vents, light up LED marquee, volume control, and plays the original Pac-Man ROM.
Really?
So it's a fully playable cabinet signed by Toru Iwatani, $299.
Oh, just saw it.
Yep.
Hmm.
Now, if that's a little bit out of your price range, there is also a Pac-Man 40th. Now we have nothing to do with Numbskull. I just happened to find this. Pac-Man 40th anniversary gift set from Bandai Namco. It includes a pair of socks, a spinner key ring, and a ceramic mug. That's a little bit more affordable. But if you want any 40th anniversary merchandise, there's an anniversary pin badge set. There's a loot box set. You can get a Pac-Man doormat if you want. But the quarter scale cabinet, you can get a regular one, not the 40th.
Yeah, it's a regular one. Well, the 40th anniversary non-signed is 130.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, signed by Toru Iwatani. I mean, that's just awesome. So, $300 you can have that. I think that's really really cool.
Let's see.
Or if you just want the actual regular one, not signed, it's 130, which isn't bad.
Oh, they do take Apple Pay. All right.
They do. All right. So there goes Larry. There goes $300 for Larry. So that was really the main focus that I had on this on our episode for this week. Larry, you wanna roll into some other stuff? What else are we chatting about today?
To be honest with you, I kind of want to mention now some of the offshoot of Pac-Man games, like the official ones.
Well, then let's talk about them.
We had all right. So besides
Pac-Man,
Pac-Man,
I go shopping because now I'm buying this thing.
Honestly, so as multitude of versions of Pac-Man were released, and I'm not even going to talk about Ms. Pac-Man. That's like a straight up sequel.
Yeah.
But we had some other ones. Just real quick to mention. First of all, Super Pac-Man. Do you remember Super Pac-Man?
Yes, I do.
You know, besides the cereal that had the giant Pac-Man marshmallow as opposed to the normal size Pac-Man marshmallow.
Pac-Man cereal.
And actually the Super Pac-Man cereal is the commercial on the Romper Room episode that I have on YouTube.
This is not the original, of course, but you got to show it off a little bit.
Hold on, where are you? Let me pull you back up.
Ah.
That's not coming up. There you go. There it is.
Yay.
Nice. I actually don't have that, shockingly. So Super Pac-Man, just basically same all these Pac-Man games for the most part are the same concept, but with Super Pac-Man you went around collecting keys to unlock these doors to get some of the power pellets, and then you would get some power pellets that made you giant, made you like triple size.
Yep.
And you got to eat through the doors and just go through all the ghosts and everything. I enjoyed Super Pac-Man. It feels like a hit or miss for a lot of people.
Yes. And I understand that because it was like a little bit of an added challenge to it. And, anything once you make something off of the original, it becomes a little weird.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
There's one game that I really never deep dived into. Pac-Man Plus.
I never went into that one either.
Yeah, Pac-Man Plus came out in 82. The difference between the original game and Plus, the graphics are a little different. Green instead of blue. It's weird when you eat it, because I've played it a couple of times. When you eat a power pellet, the ghosts just don't turn green. Like they like sprout this thing on their head for some reason, and green. They don't just turn blue. They sprout this leaf or something on their head, and they shrink down a little bit. It's very weird. And like in the first level, at least, because I never played it for long, instead of like a cherry, it's a can of Coca-Cola.
Huh.
Yeah, so it's I guess he just tried to change it enough.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the whole thing. It's like, if you want to build on the success of the original, you just vary it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen with a lot of video game franchises.
Oh, yeah,
and obviously some are hitters, some are really big misses.
And then one I remember, the only place I ever saw this game was at Chuck E. Cheese over at Caesar's Bay Bazaar, which is very local for those of you who grew up in Brooklyn. That Chuck E. Cheese had Baby Pac-Man.
I was just gonna bring up Baby Pac-Man because I remember playing it briefly. What was? Do you remember Buddy's amusement park on
yes.
Flatbush Avenue?
Buddy's was awesome,
right? And they had the arcade attached to it.
Yep.
I remember playing Baby Pac-Man there for a little bit.
Oh man, that I got some flashback. It was connected to a Burger King.
Yes, you had Burger King and Buddy's like side by side, so it was very easy for my dad to leave me stranded in the arcade while he went to go get burgers.
Oh, absolutely.
Super easy.
The same thing. Yep. A lot of birthday parties at Buddy's. Now that I think about it,
yes,
just easy to get to. Yep. So, Baby Pac-Man as a hybrid. Arcade, a Pac-Man arcade, if you will, and pinball game.
Yes.
And I always thought this was, and I've never really seen it again since.
No, I believe did I come across it at the Pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas?
No. I mean, like different type of hybrid.
You mean
arcade pinballs? Yeah.
Oh, got it. Yeah, no. To be honest, I can't remember any either. I'm trying to remember if the Super Mario Brothers pinball game was a hybrid. I don't remember if it was.
So I think it was a straight up arcade, straight up pinball.
Yeah. It was also a miniature pinball one they had.
Yes, it was a shorter one. Yeah. And so this one you had the joystick and you're playing Baby Pac-Man, which is a take, on Pac-Man, just amazing. And then when you go down, then you go into the pinball mode, and you can get energizers, get bonuses, increase tunnel speed, actually stuff like that. Which then when you go back up, you go back to the game. Yeah, you go back to the game.
Yep.
And I was always mesmerized by that. Obviously, a game you can't really replicate. Well, you could, but it's not the same to replicate on a home console. Never have anyone tried. But that, and then the other one I want to mention real quick is I remember because it was the very first virtual reality game I ever played.
Oh, yeah.
Was Pac-Man VR. And it was actually out here on Long Island. This was years ago. And I think we went to what was Dave & Buster's for Dave & Buster's? It was, I forgot what it was called. Oh, man, came with an F. I don't want to say Fuddruckers. That don't make sense. No, but
not Fuddruckers.
It was, so the traditional giant VR headset.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went in, I don't know what I was expecting the game to look like other than just maybe like a giant Pac-Man screen.
Right.
But you were Pac-Man, and then also you just see these walls around you because you're in the maze, and I'm starting to walk. And I turn around and I'm like, oh, there's a ghost as big as I am. I'm like, let me turn around and start running. It cost like $4 to play.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool.
Oh, it was awesome. Don't get me wrong. It was absolutely fantastic.
The other one that I remember is probably a more recent one, but it's like the world's largest Pac-Man arcade.
Oh,
the one where it's like floor to ceiling and you're standing, but you're standing like 3 feet away from it. That was cool.
And and then there was the more recent one, which I've come to accept as a recent good version of Pac-Man. It came out in '87. Pac-Mania. It was like a 16-bit version, a little bit 3D. Actually, very fun to play. I first played it on like one of the compilations, I think on the PSP, Namco compilations. If you can play Pac-Mania, definitely well worth it. He jumps in it, so it's a little different, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. He also, there were also some side-scrolling adventure games, if you remember.
I do remember.
That were just I will say, though, recently, and when I say recently, I'm talking about within the last 10 years, because I don't remember the actual date that it came out. But when they reimagined Pac-Man as the Pac-Man Championship Edition, I was very skeptical because I was like, what are you doing to Pac-Man? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And then you play it and you're like, this is amazing.
The game's fantastic. Actually, I got some gameplay on our YouTube page, but the game is very fun. And it just started, so I got to go grab it real quick. I got it in the truck that's parked over there by the Bulbasaur. So just give me 2 seconds.
He tries to go method with these things, but he really fails miserably. I just want to point that out while he's not here, because when he goes back to watch the episode or listen to the episode, he'll actually hear me saying these things. But
Rock, how many times I got to tell you? He's gonna hit you with fire. You got to hit him with a water type. I don't know. I don't play the game, so don't tell me. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he never plays Pokemon anyway, and yet he's acting like it because he's in Pokemon Legends.
All right, I finally had
Oh,
this in my
welcome back.
Yes, hello.
You were missed. I didn't say
I'm sure.
anything while you were
I'm
gone.
sure.
Nothing. I said nothing.
I heard bits and pieces of something, but
Nope.
as you can see, the radio transmission. So I kind of happen to have this in my suitcase. These, which are pretty cool if you can find them. Oh man,
Keep them lower.
I'm glitching. Yeah,
Keep them lower.
I'm glitching out here. So we got Pac-Man 4K for the Atari.
Nice.
And Pac-Man, what is this one called? Pac-Man Collection for the Atari 7800. I think.
Now,
I think this one plays on the 26th.
I was going to say, you don't have the capabilities to play them, do you?
No, I have played them. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
Pac-Man 4K plays like that terrible Pac-Man version of Atari that we all love, but a little smoother. And this has some different versions of Pac-Man on it.
Man. That Atari 2600 Pac-Man, man. Oh, wow. You talk about a miss.
Yeah. And you can get them from Atari Ages, actually. I think you can even get them today.
Oh, that's really cool.
Atari Ages. And then the final thing I want to mention, which, again, I literally just found out today while looking up some stuff. We're talking about Pac-Man was in movies, stuff like that, Pixels. There's a movie that, I mean, it's a low budget, like direct-to-video. Came out in 2018 called Relaxer. It's a 2018 comedy film written and directed by Joel Petroikus, I mispronounced that. Basically, it's set in 1999. It tells the story of a man playing Pac-Man in a living room, and he is not allowed to leave the couch until he goes beyond the 256th level of Pac-Man, and I believe he needs to beat it before New Year's, like before 2000. Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
So, and it's gotten some mixed. Actually, it's gotten some good reviews.
Okay.
Let me see. I saw. I just want to point out. Oh no. Okay. Nick Allen of RogerEbert.com said, though it's precise filmmaking and whirlwind script about one loser who never gets off the couch, it's a magnetic five senses experience for slacker cinema.
Ooh, slacker cinema. I like that genre.
3.5 stars out of 4. Got some good stuff. 82 out of 100 on Metacritic. Very cool. Something to check. I've never heard of it before till now, so definitely something to check out.
Very cool. I think that's it for Pac-Man for me. Well, have you ever played the arcade? I played this at Barcade actually with friends. Pac-Man Versus.
Pac-Man Battle Royal.
No, I thought it was called Pac-Man Versus, where it's 4 players. It's tabletop.
So that's Pac-Man Battle Royal. Pac-Man Versus is the one you can play on the home console, which is awesome.
Okay.
Same concept though. Yeah. Pac-Man Battle Royal, you're right, and it's I never got to play it because I just couldn't get people to play. And the one time I could, it wasn't working. It's 4 Pac-Man in the one maze. Yeah, you just go around battling each other basically in the maze. Mm-hmm. Pac-Man Versus originally came out on the GameCube, and what was awesome about it, it's been re-released for the Switch. But what's cool about it is that you get 4 players, up to 4 players. 1 player's Pac-Man, 3 players are the ghosts. On the GameCube version, you would plug the Game Boy Advance into the GameCube, and that person was Pac-Man, and you played on the Game Boy Advance. You had the full screen where the ghosts were on the television, but smaller screens.
Oh, cool.
And what you do is if someone ate Pac-Man, you just hand off the controllers and you just kind of keep switching it around. Same concept.
That's kind of fun.
Same concept for the Switch. If you have two switches, just one's Pac-Man, the other one's on the screen and stuff. Very fun to play. Very fun to play. Yeah.
Yeah, the Pac-Man Battle Royale is really fun because I like
I gotta try that one.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. I played it with some friends at Barcade. We just had a blast because when you eat the power pellet, you become big, and you can not only eat, obviously not just a ghost, you eat the other players. Pac-Man.
There you go.
So really fun stuff.
All right. You know what? I think that was a lot of Pac-Man today. I think we'll probably call it at that point.
I think we're good. Yes.
I think we're fair enough. All righty. So, super fast though. Over the weekend, you played Streets of Rage 3.
Yeah. Well, actually, there are 2 games I played. I played Streets of Rage 3 and Golden Axe 3.
Oh, I missed Golden Axe.
Yeah, well, we moved over to Golden Axe 3 because Streets of Rage 3 was just really frustrating. Me and myself and my friend, our friend Rich, my childhood friend Rich, who we've been friends since grammar school. Really cool. And he's been on the show a few times, but both of us decided we had never beaten Streets of Rage 3. So we're like, oh, we'll play it on the Sega Genesis collection, and it'll count towards the 2020 game challenge. We didn't realize not only how difficult Streets of Rage 3 is, but how much the animation changed from 2 to 3. It kind of sucks.
Oh, ouch.
Kind of sucks.
Ouch.
And we tried playing through it a couple of times. We basically died at the same exact point because the enemies in it take, like, literally if an enemy grabs you and hits you, half of your bar is gone.
There you go.
And they're like low level enemies, so it's crazy. And that's on normal mode. We switched over to Golden Axe 3 because I'm like, oh, okay, I beat Golden Axe 1 and 2. Let's move over to 3 and maybe we'll just plow through that one because I love 1 and 2. It's almost like the companies decided, well, we're making the third one. We're not going to take the formula that worked before. We're just going to make a lazier version of it. And Golden Axe 3 kind of played the same way Streets of Rage 3 did.
That's a very common thing. That's a common complaint about Golden Axe 3. It just kind of deviated so much from the first one. Yeah. Even from the second one. Yeah, it's kind of a tough one to play.
But Streets of Rage 3 did the same thing. And then to boot, the other problem we were having was while we were playing online, the game would like very oddly pause while you're playing for like a second. It's almost like it would glitch. So like we're playing and then all of a sudden, stop. Okay, back. Stop. Back to it. Stop. And it was just hard. You can't get a rhythm going because it's not running smoothly. Now, I don't know if that's because
the internet?
Well, I don't know because like Rich thought it was his internet, so he actually went and bought something to boost his internet connection.
Oh, jeez.
And then we tested it again, and then he's like, "Oh, can we test it?" So like yesterday, I sat down and we tried it again. It was definitely better, but it was still doing it. So it was just really, really weird. And I'm like, okay, so it's so if you can't play through them smoothly, it's at least online. I mean,
what system did you have it for?
PS4.
I have it. Actually, I have it for the PS4, and I bought it for the Switch. I bought it for the Switch because I got Genesis controllers. I thought it would just make sense on the Switch, but they just didn't map well. But in any event, I find the gameplay off. Like if I try to play Sonic on that Genesis collection, it's like a half a millisecond off, but enough to throw you off. And it's not the whole game mode situation or anything on the TV. That's fine. Just something with the game. I can't play it.
It's entirely possible that they're just all off. But playing online multiplayer, I mean, it just you can't. You can't do it with the way that the game keeps stopping.
Yeah, it's weird.
So unfortunately, did not beat Streets of Rage 3. Did not beat Golden Axe 3 either. I don't know if I'm going to go back to them. I definitely won't go back to them in an online multiplayer way, which is a shame because Rich and I bought the collection this week specifically to play online together. And I'm like, okay, well, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Hopefully they were on sale.
Always.
I tried my hand again at Sonic. Sonic 1, I've never beaten any of the Sonics. I want to try and beat Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Those are my two favorites. It was just a bad run for me. I mean, I only got to like the third level or something. So it just wasn't my time to beat Sonic. I've gotten further in it. But that was really the only one I played this weekend. But with the North American TurboGrafx 16 Mini now being delivered this Wednesday, tomorrow from when this drops.
Yep.
I got some hopeful. I got a short list here of games I'm really hoping to beat. Sonic 2, Bonk's Adventure, nice. Any one of the Adventure Island games. I love Adventure Island. Cool. That's an underrated series right there.
Yeah, Adventure Island is really cool. Well, I'm hoping my TurboGrafx 16 Mini is supposed to show up on Tuesday. And if it does show up on Tuesday, and depending on the time, I may go live with it.
Okay. Yeah, the system, I've already said, the PC Engine Mini that I have, it's already my favorite system of the minis. Because you forget the gems that were on the TurboGrafx. And of course, when I get the North American one, there's a couple of different games on there, but I'll have that one readily available, and we'll take it from there. Maybe I'll try my hand again at Splatterhouse. One time live gameplay. I did get to the end, but I didn't beat it, so I'll try it.
Okay. Yeah, Splatterhouse I would like to beat. I've never beaten any of them, I don't think.
And with that, I think we will call it. And where can they find us?
You guys can find us on Facebook.com/RetroGamersPodcast, Instagram @RetroGamersPodcast, Twitter @RetroGamersPod. You can email us at email@theretrogamers.com, or you can check us out on YouTube. Just do a search for the Retro Gamers Podcast, like and subscribe, leave us reviews wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you watch us. I have to sneeze.
And okay. I was gonna try and talk over that one, but that was loud.
I was trying, but it did not work.
All right, and yeah, definitely listen. Listen, subscribe, follow, share. For crying out, please share the streams, share the posts that the podcast posts. Let your friends, let your family know about us, and always hit those. Oh, God bless, and always hit those. The bell icon, or so you're notified when new episodes drop, when new YouTube videos go up from us, and we'll continue doing what we do. And with that, we will call it a week. Anthony, enjoy your allergies, apparently.
Thank you very much, Larry. Get the hell out of whatever fake video game.
Yeah, I should be moving shortly here. I see the train's actually starting to pull into station right now. So, folks, we will catch you right here next week on the Retro Gamers Podcast.